In a Sahel field where the last rain fell months ago and the afternoon air hits over 110 degrees, pearl millet still pushes up head high, sets seed, and ripens on almost nothing. And it's only one of 6 ancient desert grains that beat furnace heat on a single deep soak of water. Before we walk out into that field, if you're here to water less and grow more, subscribing genuinely helps me keep digging up secrets like this one. Picture the ground under your feet. It's split open, cracked into plates like the bottom of a dried riverbed, hard enough to knock on. The sun sits white overhead. There's no shade, no breeze worth the name, no water for miles. Nothing green has any business standing here, and yet the crop stands anyway, tall and gold and heavy with seed. That collision is the whole story. 6 real grains grown in the hardest food growing places on earth, and each one survives that oven with a single trick, one clean move you can carry straight into your own baked backyard. If your summer beds bake hard and you're tired of watering every single day, you are exactly who I made this for. Here's the thing, almost nobody tells you. Out here, in the driest farming country there is, people don't beat the heat by watering more. They can't. There isn't more water. So they win a different way, with quick timing, with deep roots, and with a little armor against the sun. That's it, 3 moves. Every grain ahead is one of those 3, sharpened by countless generations of people who could not afford to guess wrong. And most of it has been half forgotten, buried under crops that only survive because we drown them daily. Your dry summer, your rising water bill, your cracked beds, this is knowledge built for exactly that. So let's meet the first one, fonio. It's a tiny West African grain, gold and fine as sand, and the Dogon people of Mali have been growing it for thousands of years. Its trick is the simplest one on the list, raw speed. Fonio doesn't fight the dry season, it ducks it. From the day the seed goes in to the day you cut it, fonio takes roughly 6 to 8 weeks. That's it. While the long, dry months are still lining up to kill everything, fonio has already grown, seeded, and finished. It slips through the gap before the worst heat even arrives. Think about what 6 weeks means in your own garden. Look at your own beds for a second. How long does your lettuce last before it bolts in a hot spell? Fonio would already be harvested and drying in the shade, and that's the move you steal. You don't have to grow a crop that endures the heat for months. You can grow one that's gone before the heat lands. Choose the fast maturing varieties, the ones that race to the finish, and let speed do the work your watering can used to do. Fonio's the sprinter of this whole field. Out the gate, across the line, and gone before the drought even shows up. Now, the second grain plays a completely different game. Teff, if you've ever eaten Ethiopian food, you've eaten teff. It's the dust fine grain behind injera, that soft, spongy flatbread they serve across Ethiopia. And when I say dust fine, I mean it. A single handful of teff holds thousands of seeds. Thousands. You could lose a pinch of it in a crack in that dry ground and never find it again. That tiny size is the trick. One teff plant doesn't bet everything on a single seed and a single lucky rain. It throws out an enormous number of tiny, fast starts all at once. When the rain comes, dozens of them catch. Some fail, sure, but with numbers like that, plenty always make it through to seed. It's a plant hedging every bed it has. And you can do the exact same thing at home. So tiny, so dense, instead of a few precious seeds spaced far apart, praying each one takes, scatter many and let the numbers carry you through a dry spell. Some won't make it, enough will. Teff's the gambler who never puts it all on one card and always walks away from the table with something. So that's 2 grains down, and notice what they share. Both win by getting out fast. Speed and numbers are the easy tricks. They escape the heat before it can do its worst. But the next grain is over 10,000 years old, one of the very first wheats humans ever farmed, and it does the opposite. It stands its ground in the furnace for the long haul, month after month, because it wears a built-in suit of armor wrapped tight around its own seed. That built-in suit of armor is real, and it's over 10,000 years old. Emmer, one of the very first wheats humans ever farmed back in the Fertile Crescent, locks its grain inside a tough husk it flat out refuses to let go of. Thresh it, beat it, curse at it, the husk stays clamped. And that stubbornness is the whole trick. Here's what that husk is doing. Picture a metal thermos sitting on a table baking in full sun. The outside is too hot to hold, but pour cold water in, screw the lid down, and hours later, that water's still cold. The seal did it. Emmer's husk is that seal. While the ground turns to an oven floor and the surface cracks like a dried riverbed, the seed inside stays cool and stays sealed. The scorching sun can't reach it. The dry wind can't pull the moisture out. Ordinary bare wheat grain would cook and shrivel. Emmer just sits there, armored, and rides out the heat that kills everything around it. And that's the exact move you steal. Not just for your seeds, for your soil. Bare dirt in the sun is a seed with no husk. The sun bakes it, the wind dries it, and every drop of that one deep soak of water you gave it evaporates straight back into the sky. Walk out and touch your soil at noon. If it's bare and hot enough to hurt your hand, that's exactly the mistake Emmer solved 10,000 years ago. So give it a husk, spread a layer of straw, wood chips, dried leaves, mulch over the dark soil. That blanket is your thermos lid. It shades the ground, it traps the moisture, and it turns a bed that dries out by lunchtime into one that stays damp for days on a single watering. Emmer is the old soldier of this whole story. 10,000 years in the field, and it still won't take its armor off. Not for the harvest, not for the heat, not for anyone. It survives by refusing to be exposed. Remember that word, exposed. Because now the trick sharpens. Armor is patient, it takes the punishment and outlasts it. The fourth grain doesn't just survive a killer most crops can't touch, it walks up to that killer and shrugs. That killer is salt. And the grain is barley, the workhorse cereal of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, growing along the Nile and between the two great rivers while the pyramids were still going up. In dry country, water is the problem, but the water you do get is often the second problem. Pull it up from a well or run it off hard, tap lines, and it comes loaded with salt. That salt builds up in the soil, and to most plants, it's poison. It pulls water back out of the roots. Ordinary wheat put in that ground turns yellow and dies. Barley doesn't care. If your tap water leaves a white crust on the rim of the pot, that crust is exactly the salt barley shrugs off and ordinary wheat dies on. It tolerates hard, salty, well-stressed ground that would flat out kill its softer cousins. That alone would earn it a spot here, but barley plays a second card at the same time. It's fast, it ripens early, it races to fill its grain and finishes the whole crop before the true furnace heat of high summer even arrives. Salt-proof and quick out the door. Armor plus a head start. So when your tap water runs hard and your beds bake by June, you copy both moves at once. Choose the tough, salt-tolerant crops, barley itself, or hardy greens and grains that don't flinch at mineral-heavy water, and pair them with early timing. Get them in the ground early, let them sprint, and let them finish and set seed before the worst of the heat lands. You're not fighting the furnace, you're clocking out before it clocks in. A crop that's already harvested can't be killed by an August you never let it meet. Barley is the escape artist of the field. It doesn't outmuscle the heat, and it doesn't hide from the salt. It just beats the heat to the finish line, done, dried gold, and gone before the oven door even swings shut. So now you've seen it. Speed that ducks the dry season. Numbers that gamble on one rain. Armor that never comes off. And a salt beater that simply finishes first. 4 grains, 4 tricks, each one cleverer than the last. You'd think that's the whole toolbox. It isn't. Because the 5th grain does something that shouldn't be possible. When the drought bites, really bites, weeks with nothing. It doesn't stand and fight like emmer, and it doesn't flee like barley. It coats its own leaves in a thin skin of wax like a candle. It rolls them shut, and then it just stops. It plays dead. It sits there in the dust, looking finished, waiting for water that might never come, sometimes for weeks. And then, if the rain returns, it wakes up. That grain is sorghum. African to its core, grown across the Sahel where the rain can vanish for a month and just not come back. And sorghum doesn't panic. It pulls in, rolls its long leaves shut like a hand closing, and coats them in a pale, waxy bloom, a thin dust of natural wax you can actually smear off with a fingertip. Then it idles, it stops growing, stops spending water it doesn't have, and waits out the dry spell. Weeks can pass, the field looks dead, brown, finished, and it isn't, it's just holding its breath. When the water finally returns, it wakes up and finishes the job. Here's what that wax is really doing. It's the plant's own sunscreen and lip balm rolled into one. It seals moisture in and it keeps the punishing heat out so the leaf underneath doesn't cook while the plant sits idle. Same reason you'd put balm on cracked lips in a dry wind. A thin coat changes everything. And this is the trick. You can lift straight into your own beds. Think of the last leaf you saw curl in a heat wave. Sorghum does that on purpose, and your mulch does the same job for your soil. Spread mulch thick over bare ground, and you've given it a waxy skin. The sun hits the mulch, not the dirt, and the moisture underneath stops boiling off. Throw shade cloth over your most tender beds in the worst weeks of summer, and you've handed them sorghum's own strategy. Sit still, stay sealed, wait for cooler days. Sorghum is the survivor who knows the bravest move isn't fighting. It's knowing when to stop and wait. 5 grains down, each one a different way to cheat an oven, and the crown belongs to the toughest cereal humans grow. Go back to that field from the start, the one where the ground cracks like a dried riverbed and the afternoon air sits over 110 degrees. The plant standing head high in it, taller than the person walking beside it, that's pearl millet. And its trick isn't speed or armor or playing dead. Its trick is depth. Here's the one that changes how you water forever. So if you take nothing else, take this. While the surface turns to powder, pearl millet drives its roots straight down past 5 feet deeper than a tall person is high. It's not waiting on the sky. It's mining water hidden far below the crust in soil that still holds moisture long after the top has baked dry. Rain that soaked in seasons ago and never fully left, sitting in the cool dark where the sun can't reach it. Pearl millet reads that ground like a map and goes straight for it. On barely 8 inches of rain in a whole season, roughly what falls on a true desert pearl millet, still sets seed, still ripens, and still feeds millions of people. One deep drink pulled up from the dark in furnace heat. That's the impossible thing you came here for, and that's exactly how it's done. So steal the master move. This is the one the whole story has been climbing toward. Stop watering a little every day. When you sprinkle the surface each morning, you train your plant's roots to stay shallow and lazy, camped at the top where the heat kills them first. Instead, water deep and water less often. Soak the bed hard, then leave it, let the top go dry while the moisture sinks. Your roots will chase it down, and once they're deep, a heat wave can scorch the surface all it wants. The water your plants are drinking is far below it. Deep and infrequent beats, daily and shallow, every single summer. That's the whole secret, spread across 6 grains. Look at what these places actually taught us. In the hardest, driest ground on earth, the Sahel, the Fertile Crescent, the fields of ancient Egypt, nobody beat the heat by watering more. They beat it with speed, with tiny, dense seed, with a tough husk, with salt tolerance and early timing, with a coat of wax, and above all, with roots that reach down instead of waiting on the rain. Deep roots, quick timing, a little armor against the sun. That's it. That's the entire toolkit. Picture that first cracked field one more time. The one where nothing green should stand. Everything that thrives there thrives on those same moves, and not one of them is a secret anymore. And it's yours now. Your dry summer isn't the wall you thought it was. Your rising water bill isn't a life sentence. Those cracked, baked beds that break your heart every July aren't a dead end. They're just soil that hasn't been handed the right trick yet. Fonio finishes before the drought arrives. Teff gambles on numbers. Emmer wears armor. Barley shrugs off salt and finishes early. Sorghum seals itself and waits. Pearl millet digs. 6 grains, 6 moves, and not one of them needs you standing over it with a hose. If a grain can ripen in an oven on a single drink of water, your garden has no excuse left. Thank you for spending this time in the driest fields on earth with me. I hope you walk out to your own beds seeing them a little differently. Until next time.